Hello everyone! So it's Friday, so it's time for the Friday reads. I have read quite a bit this week and I'm in the middle of a ton of books, which is not normal for me, but let's get into that. The first thing I finished this week is Unsheltered by Kingsolver, and I already talked about it in my blog and my previous Friday reads, but I actually really like this. This has a dual time perspective in which we follow a modern day family in living in a house in Jersey that is sort of crumbling down. So the woman tries to find out things about the history of the house, just in case she could make the state give some money for maintaining it if it has some historical significance. And the other timeline is in the 1800s of this teacher that lived in that house and was very supportive of Darwin's theories, and therefore they thought it might have some interest. So we followed those two perspectives and the things that happen in both of these people's lives. I liked the 1800s timeline better, but yeah, I really liked how the science in that was portrayed and the struggle that they went through, and I liked very much Kingsolver's writing, so I was very excited to finish that, and I would recommend. The next thing I read was Weather by Offil, and this was short. I think it's shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. So this is about a librarian that is learning more and more about climate change, and it is written in very short snapshots, and it's very anxious about it. Like the more she learns, the more anxious it becomes, and it just builds up continuously. I read this in a sitting, more or less. It's very fast to read, but personally I don't know how much impact it had on me. It was just okay. It didn't do anything special for me, but I think it's not a bad book. Maybe I was not in the right space of mind, but yeah, it was a very meh book. Then I also finished Iran Awakening by Shirin Ebadi. I read this in a physical copy, but I already gave it back to my friend, and I actually really like this. So Shirin Ebadi is a lawyer in Iran, and she got the Nobel Peace Prize in 2003 for defending the rights of women, mostly in Iran, and the right of them to define their own futures. And she grew up during, before the Islamic regime, before the revolution, and then when she started working as a judge, that's when the revolution happened and the Islamic Republic started to develop. So she goes through all those changes, and it shows how women slowly lose power of their own lives and how she's fighting to reclaim those. And I found that really fascinating. She's very engaging in the way she writes about these topics, and also, I mean, she's such a strong woman. At the very end of the book, when she won the Nobel Peace Prize, that's more or less when it finishes, and she says that some of her friends were saying, you might not be as safe in Iran anymore, so maybe it's reasonable for you, now that you have this status, to move to a safer country. And she was saying, but then I cannot defend the women of Iran if I'm not in the country, so why would I want to move? And that kind of thing was ongoing in the book, and I thought that she was very interesting, and that strength, it was very well reflected in the book. So I really liked it. I recommend. And then the last book I finished this week, I cannot talk about because it was for the Booktube Prize. That was my last book, so I have already wrapped up and submitted my ballot. But yeah, you will hear more about that book in June when we are allowed to talk about it. Then I DNFed one book, and that is Walden by Henry David Thoreau. So this is about Thoreau moving into the middle of the forest, away from society, and sort of comparing the two lives and what he gained from being away from these societal roles. But it went into so much detail about so many things. Like the first chapter, it was about the economy of the two situations. So he was calculating like how much the nails to build his house costed, and how that compared to how much he would have to spend if he lived in society, stuff like that. It was too much for me, so I DNF'd it. And he was connecting everything in a very philosophical way that it went over my head a bit too much. So I thought I could finish this book, but I would not understand half of the things that he's saying, and I would not enjoy it, so I would rather just stop now. So yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment, but it happens sometimes. And then I'm reading a lot of books, which is not the normal for me, but there are different reasons for that. So first of all, as always, I'm reading Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I haven't read much this week. I didn't have a lot of listening time, so that's still going. Then I'm also reading The Tenth Muse by Catherine Chung, and I'm reading this as a buddy read with Doris from All the Books, and we are both really enjoying this book. So this is about an American woman that has Chinese descent that becomes a mathematician. I believe it's in the 60s or 70s that she's becoming a mathematician, and it touches in so many things, and it's so fast-paced. There are so many things happening already, and we are halfway through the book only. So there are themes of race, there are themes of feminism, women in science. It's so much, so good. I'm really enjoying that, but you'll hear more about that next week, I guess. Then the next thing I'm reading is Flights by Olga Tokarczuk, and this is musings about traveling and migration so far. So the protagonist of this is it's basically living an errant life. They never stop for long anywhere. I'm only 20 pages in or something like that. But yeah, I'm reading this aloud to my partner, and we have to stop every 2 or 3 pages because there is always something that sparks a conversation between the two of us. So it's gonna take us a while to read this, but I think we're both enjoying the experience, and the writing in this is also super beautiful. The translator, let me check. Yeah, translated by Jennifer Croft, and she did a great job. Like, the language is so beautiful. So yeah, I'm only 20 pages in, but I think I will recommend this already. And then the next thing I'm reading is Middle England by Jonathan Coe, and this is about, well, it follows a family that lives in the Midlands in England, and a little bit, it's a very political book, so it talks about, well, so far it's set in 2010, so before the Brexit vote, but it sort of explains the mindset of the people, that you can see clearly how it's going to lead into the Brexit votes. So I'm really enjoying this as well. So I'm very excited to continue with that. And then the last thing I'm in the middle of is The Dark Forest by Cixin Liu, and this is the second book in the Three Body Problem trilogy. So in the first book, he talked a lot about these extraterrestrial beings that had made contact with Earth, and in the second book, it's mostly focused on the fact that these beings are coming to Earth, and so what the people in Earth are doing to prepare for that. And yeah, I'm liking these books. I like the first one better than the second one so far, but we will see how that goes and how it develops. It's very interesting how it is framed within society, and the whole trilogy, how it's framed, because it's not the traditional narrative. So I'm also enjoying that a lot. That's all I'm reading so far. It's a lot of books at one time for me, but we're dealing with that. And once I finish many of these things, which I'm expecting to finish, I mean, I think this one I'll finish maybe this weekend, and also the three-body problem one, the Tenth Muse we're expecting to finish around Monday. So I think I will have time to read some other things. And one of the things I'm really excited to start, I think, as soon as I finish Middle England maybe, it's Love Girl by Hope Jahren. As I said, everyone has told me to read this, so I have to. And also I was talking to Doris about the Tenth Muse and how women are portrayed in science, and then I was thinking, I also have this book that is non-fiction, and it's more much of a modern perspective, that is also about women in science. So it will be very interesting to read the two of them side by side and see how they fit into each other. So I think this is the next thing I'm going to start soon. And the other thing I'm going to for sure read next week is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, and this is for a book club I'm part with, and we have the Zoom meeting on Thursday. So I will be reading that next week as well, but I don't expect that to take that super long because I think it's a middle grade. But yeah, those are my plans so far. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have read any of these and want to chat about them, and see you in the next video. Bye!